There's another info session for World in Conversation, and this is Duncan here. Duncan, you are a facilitator.
I am.
And you probably know some of these folks because you've met them in groups, right?
Yeah, I can see a few faces I saw this morning, actually.
So you're here to just kind of remind people that they could come to the info session tonight. They could probably benefit from learning how to be a facilitator. But can you just tell us one thing? This will be relevant to class today, but this idea of taking a neutral position, taking all sides, how has that benefited you, learning that?
Yeah, so in class, a big thing we talk about, and I guess preach, is the idea of taking all sides. Taking the role of a facilitator means taking all sides. And what that's sort of shown me, and like the value in that, is sort of raising the little guy out of the corner they might be in, making sure you get all the pieces that are in these sort of, I guess, problem pies, if you want to just put it that way, but like making sure that the people don't get singled out. You make sure you get all the pieces. You're helping out the voices that need that help. You're also just absorbing everything, and you're not trying to make sure anyone's certain side is given extra attention, because your goal is to make sure everyone in the room is seen and heard, and just giving everyone that space.
Where else have you learned to do that?
Well, like outside of World in Conversation?
Yeah.
Among friends and work conflict.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's where you practice.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like you can, like I see myself doing it all the time with friends. I see myself doing it with work between colleagues, being able to absorb what people are saying and help make sure it's understood across everyone, making sure no one person is ignored.
And I think I've said it before, but you know, you're here for your testimony. You don't know this yet, but our alumni from the past 30 years tell us that this is something that is so valuable to their work, whatever field they're in, whether it's astrophysics or business or nursing or what research, that it's a skill that just translates to everywhere. So thank you for being here as a representative.
Thank you for having me up here. And come to the info session.
Yes, please.
Thanks, man. So we have a class that I've been waiting to do all semester, and finally just felt like, okay, this is the perfect time to do it. And we're going to talk about the conflict in Israel and Palestine. And Lori has graciously accepted my invitation to come back, and we have two volunteers who I think we've selected them for a reason. I've had a conversation with each of them, but I think you two are going to be awesome. So why don't we start? Introduce yourselves and
hang on before they do that.
Yep.
Because this will help. Can we just say a little more about what we're doing, why, and not just this is a good time in the semester, but like, what's your intention today? And it'll help kind of orient the two of them as well.
Wow. So, I've been struck by the amount of extremism in people's ideas. And I'm normally a person who I'm very optimistic. I'm very realistic as well. But I'm very optimistic, and I tend to see the glass as half full, or I see the silver lining. I always see something, I can pull something positive out of pretty much anything. But I'm watching the conversations unfold, and I'm watching the conversations about Israel and Palestine and the West Bank and Gaza in particular, a conflict that is so deeply rooted, and it's a conflict that people have a very difficult time stepping outside of. And I'm following the work of Lori and what I've learned from Lori and what I'm seeing about the world. And I keep saying, I've gotta we've got to have this conversation in here on this very difficult, very pivotal issue that's extremely difficult for people to hold different sides. So,
and one thing about it that's really important to digest is that it isn't a unique conflict. It's iconic. We have more than one. When I say iconic, it's one that we have for many decades been referring to as something irresolvable, irreconcilable. But all around the world, throughout time, and within our very personal lives, we have irreconcilable conflicts, and they actually have a similar structure. And once we realize that conflicts and legacies of conflict have a similar structure, are actually there's a lot more ways that we can approach them than the ways that we do. And so some of the exploration today is not going to be about resolving a conflict, but it's just going to be walking into it because we can walk into it in a way that actually applies to every conflict that we have. And I want to say something that I think is so important, and it's so simple. But just let's say you're a person, you live in a family and there's 3 siblings and you're one of them, and your siblings get in a fight. Immediately you're going to pick a side, or your mom or your dad or your stepmom or whomever is going to pick a side, or your 2 friends that get in a fight. You're going to always pick a side. That it's something deep within us that we pick a side, and we look for who's wrong and who's right, and we pick the side of who's right. And that is so deep, not only in the way we think as people, but it's also really deep in the way that we build our cultures all around the world. And so when we think about this, the conversation we're going to have today, if there was one thing you could keep noticing, is just how deeply we want to pick a side. And people like me realize that there's so much that is between the sides that gets forgotten in that deep trigger, what's the word? Just natural reaction we have to pick a side. What if we didn't? And even more, what if we can't?
Good. Thanks. That's perfect. 2 things. I want to make a quick announcement. I see a couple laptops open. Close your laptops. Also, your phones. Put your phones away today. No phones. Okay? We have 2 volunteers today. These are really deep issues and really close to the heart for them and for us. And keep your phones turned off. Okay, let's introduce yourselves. You want to start?
How do you want them to introduce? They have, a whole universe of things each of them could say about themselves. So what would you like?
Say how you come to this issue. What brings you to this particular issue?
You want to start? Okay.
My name is Jessica. I'm a pre-law student. I'm double majoring in political science and criminology, and I live in North Carolina. And to answer your question, how I come to this issue, well, I'm very pro-Israel. That wasn't clear, but I decided to do this class when Sam asked me because it's something I really hold deep in my heart. I'm very proud to be Jewish. It's really a huge part of my identity. I spent a huge part of my life here at Penn State, but even before coming to college, finding out how I can express my Judaism in different ways. So if I'm asked to represent Israel in any way I can, I always will. So when this opportunity came up to me, I was glad to do it because I obviously want peace, which I'm sure he could say the same. So I think that I want to take the opportunity to kind of help create that in any way I can, even if it's just at Penn State.
Cool. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Yusuf. I'm a Palestinian American. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I'm a fourth year studying pre-medicine. My dad's an immigrant. I'm a first-gen citizen. He was raised in Jordan. He had to flee from Palestine when he was a kid. He came to the States for university and has stayed and worked here ever since. This subject hits home really deeply to me because I have a lot of family in the West Bank. I actually found out last month that my second cousin, his other side of his family, was completely eradicated from the Gaza books recently. His entire bloodline is just gone and disappeared off the face of this earth. And it's just really something very personal and sad to hear about.
So both of you really bring that. Yo, hang on, dude.
I'm glad you did that first before we even start, because the danger of having a conversation where other people are listening is that other people's reactions can influence it. And it would be really valuable if we could just listen and just see just in the way that we're going to ask Steph and Jessica to listen to each other, and they actually are going to face each other in a little bit. We're going to also ask every one of us to listen as well. And that's actually going to be the focus. When I was here a couple weeks ago, we had that focus of asking questions. We were talking about how it really helps a conversation to ask open questions. Remember that? And so the two volunteers were there was 4 volunteers, and they were doing that as their focus. Here, it's going to be about listening, and one of those things many of you have probably heard of, active reflective listening. So anyway, that's going to be something that we practice today as well. These are, again, we're not here to solve anything. We're here to just explore so that we can all be a little more thoughtful.
Okay.
And so, again, they're not feeling, this is a pretty nervous kind of moment and vulnerable. So I think let's all be mindful of that too.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I just want to give you, look, first off, you need to, so here's Israel right here, okay? And Palestine, Israel, Palestine, right there.
You're like way out there in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Not really.
Just so you kind of get, because I know a lot of you don't have any understanding of this land. And can you go to the next slide? The state of Israel is created in 1948, and after World War II, it comes to be in 1948, and once the state of Israel is claimed, once Jewish people, Palestinian people have been moving in and out of Israel forever. So first off, understand this. I got to stand to do this. Everything that I say in the next 2 minutes, there have been thousands of books written about it, and everybody's going to say, you should have said this, you should have said that. I'm going to give it 2 minutes because I just want to give you some sense of what we're talking about, and we don't have any more time than 2 minutes. So people have always lived in this land that we now call Israel. We can argue about was it ever called Palestine? Was it always called Israel? Did God give a covenant to the Jewish people of Israel? We're not going to argue about any of that. In 1948, many new people, after World War II, many new immigrants started arriving in Israel, including many Jewish people. It didn't start in 1945, right after World War II, but it didn't start in 1948. But people have been going in and out, and Jews have always been in Israel. And Palestinians, or people who now are identified the ancestry of Yusuf here, have always been in the region. Many different people have been in the region. The state of Israel gets created, and now we got to figure out what to do. Because just like I've been watching the Ken Burns documentary on the American Revolution, and it's so fascinating to see as all the Europeans came into the Americas, here, this land, there were people living in the Americas, and how the conversation gets turned about whose land this is, and who owns it, and who was here, and who's the rightful owner of the land, and who should be here. We don't have to get into any of those conversations. The point is, there are Palestinians and Jews and many other people living in what is now the state of Israel. In 1967, there was a decision made that we would make borders. And the borders, we would have put Gaza here. This would be a Palestinian land, territory, and the West Bank. And Israel would be an international space in 1967. And Golan Heights was moved over, was given back to Syria in the Oslo Accords, I think. So here we have, this is Israel. This is the land that is mostly, Youssef was saying, mentioned the West Bank in his family. That's where his father's from, this area right here. The war in Gaza, the most recent war, is happening right here. Okay? So there are Palestinians in Israel proper. 25% of Israel, this part right in here, this lighter part, are Palestinians. So they're Palestinian Israelis or Arab Israelis. And there are Jewish people in the West Bank. And they're generally called the settlers. They're in settlements or they've moved into the West Bank. And some never left the West Bank. They've been in the West Bank for many, many generations, okay? So this is the conversation that we're going to have. Next slide. There aren't just two sides. There are many sides. Youssef doesn't have just one opinion. He's got dozens of opinions. Jessica doesn't have just one opinion. She's got dozens of opinions. There are many, many, many different ways to talk about this. The things that we're going to pick out to talk about are just things that I just picked. But we could talk about so many different things. So therefore, do not say you should have talked about this or you should have talked about that. Look, we only have a small amount of time. We can't cover everything. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, a facilitator is nobody's friend.
And everybody's friend.
And everybody's friend. Because no matter what's going to happen is Lori and I are going to take a strong position next to Youssef. And then we're going to turn it and I'm going to do everything in my power to make the argument, his arguments, the arguments that he will want to make for what would support his people and his relatives. I'm going to do everything in my power, every ounce of intellect I can bring to it to support him and to make his argument as strong as possible. And then I'm going to turn and I'm going to stand next to Jessica, sit next to Jessica, and I'm going to make an argument that is equally as persuasive, the best possible argument that I can make to get Youssef to say, oh, man, that's a really good argument. Like, to get you to say, to get anyone to say, to get Jessica to say, wow, you really did a good job supporting the things that I think are really important. And Lori is going to be doing her job in the middle of holding the sides and asking questions. And we're not taking a side. And so we're nobody's friend, and we're everybody's friend. We're the friend to both of them. And we're the enemy to both of them, because that's how it works. Okay? Are we good? Dr. Mulvey? Why don't you pull your chairs? We're going to, we got to decide who's going to go first. Because, see, we got this thing here that pull your chair right in front of her. And I'm going to start with one of them. We're going to start with one of them. I'm either going to start by making Youssef's argument or his case, right? Or I'm going to start with Jessica's. But here's the problem. The person that goes first, it's hardest because you're not going to trust that I'm going to make as strong and as a persuasive of an argument on your half. So if I start with him and be like, all right, Jessica, here's what you need to be thinking about. It's going to be really hard for her because she's not going to believe that I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the same thing for her. You see that, right? So you guys, the two of you see that. So should we just pick one?
I trust you. He can go first.
Yeah?
I trust you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What did you say, Lisa?
Like going second's going easier because you can form a rebuttal.
Ah.
Yeah,
Okay. Rebuttal.
Yeah. Do you want to say something about rebuttal?
Well, it's actually really, remember when I was here last time and when someone would ask a question that could be answered by yes or no, I would stop them and say, oh, just make that an open-ended question. Do you remember that? Okay. Well, in this case, when it's your turn, I'm going to ask you probably to make, not to make a rebuttal, but to actually tell us what you heard. And so I'm going to help you with that, right? And so it's just going to be a little different.
Since you agreed to go first, that I would go sit with him, since you said, I'm actually going to start with you. All right? So, now, the thing is, Jessica doesn't have to, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to make any arguments. You just have to listen. We're going to have this conversation.
And
Can
I think
I
it's,
or no?
Go ahead. What?
Can I or no?
No, we don't need to. You will later. We're going to have a conversation, but you don't have to be thinking about that. All right? So
So I think when we have a debate, or even when we just have an argument with somebody, just, low key, off the cuff, I'm arguing with my roommate, the intention is to win, right? Like, I'm supposed to make the better argument, and I'm supposed to have more facts, I'm supposed to be more persuasive. And so that's actually not what we're doing here. Even though you keep talking about argument, it'll make sense in a minute.
Yeah.
But if we're successful, both Jessica and Youssef will feel somewhat expanded by the conversation. So that's a very different goal than which side has a better argument.
here, you got to just sit directly facing. All right, that's important. Okay, so listen, Youssef, here's the thing.
So what are you doing right now? You're making a case.
I'm making a case for why we should be listening to Jessica and Jewish people. Go to the first slide. So this is actually a photo of on the anniversary of the October 7th killings, massacre really. I mean, but killings. 1,200 people died in Israel. They weren't all Jewish, by the way, but the vast majority were, and they were killed by fighters from Hamas. And Hamas is so if you don't know, Hamas is a political wing, a militant organization that's based in Gaza, but also in to some degree in the West Bank, but in Gaza, right? 1,200 people, 1,200 like innocent, like, and now mind you, God, like, so you watch this, right? I'm really talking right to you. What you need to know is he already knows a lot of this. He already is going to be sensitive to much of what I'm saying, but I'm speaking as though he doesn't, okay? So understand that. That's how this is going to operate. Let me tell you something. I was in Paris when this happened, and I just arrived in Paris, and I heard about this massacre and how many people they thought had died. And I went to the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, but I had some time, and I went down to the Eiffel Tower, and they were having protests. And I said, oh my God, it's going to be like protests, in support. This is terrible. 1,200 people, and they took hostages, and it's all over the news and everything. And I start seeing signs against Israel. And I thought, my God, wait, hang on a second. It's Israelis, Jewish people that got killed. But what I'm seeing are all these signs and all these declarations that, it's now or never. We need to to finish this off, and we need to, by whatever means necessary, we need to support of Palestinians, Palestinian rights. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's Palestinians that just did this horrible killing. And so I think wow, what if that happened? What if Mexicans came over to the United States and killed 1,200 people in Texas or Arizona or wherever, Canadians in Michigan. And then, so I see, these are all human beings. These are children and grandparents. And okay, so then I go to the next slide, and I start seeing all these protests over the past couple of years. I'm like, wait, by any means necessary. Whoa. This is in New York. Wait, hang on a second. By any means necessary. Hang on. Wait, does that mean massacre? We got to support Jewish rights. Palestinian rights. We need to find a way to get land back to Palestinians. Wait, does that mean massacre more Israeli? Wait, do you know what you're saying with that sign? I'm looking at people, and I'm looking at all these people who I'm not even sure they have any idea at all about what this conflict is. And so I'm starting to freak out. I'm like, all these pro-Palestinian protests with these protesters who are basically saying, hey, we support Hamas. Now, I don't see a sign right there that says we support Hamas, but essentially that's what's being said. And I'm like, God, that's essentially what's the idea here. Hang on. In my mind, no, hang on. You got to follow me, right?
So you're
In
yeah,
my
you're saying a
mind,
lot.
I'm telling you, in my mind, this is essentially saying there's nothing else to say but we support Hamas. That's how I'm reading this. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, go to the next one. And then I think, my God, man, this is the long history of anti-Semitism, right? This is a Charlottesville protest. The Confederate flag, but you always have a Nazi flag. And I'm like, hey, wait, hang on a second. Do y'all do you understand what Nazism is? Do y'all people just pull a Nazi flag out? Do you know what that is? That was the attempt to eliminate every Jewish person from earth, basically. Turn them into tiny specks of dust and get rid of them all. And
Okay, wait. Can I just pause you for a second? You're making, Jessica's like, yep, I feel that. So I think you have to.
I'm going to switch.
Because this is a lot to take in.
That's a lot to take in. I'm going to switch in a second, right? And then I think about people all these current anti-Jewish people that are coming out of the woodwork now, like this Fuentes guy, and I'm like, man, Jews are behind it all. If I'm Jewish, I'm really scared. I'm like, wait, you're not allowed to shake your head.
She is.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
All
she
right,
is.
all right,
He's
okay,
going to do.
you are.
I've been shaking my head the whole time.
All right,
So
okay.
That's how I know.
This issue is, I'm just telling you, if I'm Jewish, I'm really scared because I'm like, we just had the most extensive genocide. I mean, the attempt, millions of people, and now you got people using.
Wait, are
the
you talking
symbol.
about the Holocaust?
Yeah,
Okay,
the Holocaust, and oh man, and how is it that people are even having these ideas, and they're having lunch with the president? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh God, I'm scared. That's all. I'm scared. Okay, how can I not be scared? And so I'm just gonna tighten it up and go. Okay, so here.
So
ready?
To be fair, so he's not going to respond yet because
No,
now
he's not gonna
Jessica's
respond.
not going to respond.
All right, Mom.
Doing okay?
All right. Go to the next slide. Wait, is this? So here's the thing. Listen, we had an agreement that we're going to split this up. And, Palestinians are going to you're going to get Gaza, you're going to get the West Bank, and then we're going to work it out. And they're going to have a state. It's going to be the state of Palestine. Just like we have the state of Israel. So, okay, that works. That's cool. That's great. It's important because, his people need also a state. So then we go to the next slide and say, wait, hang on a second. So here's the West Bank, right? Palestinians actually, of all that land, they control about 18%. And wait, the Palestinian Authority itself. And then, 22% is administered by the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government. And 60% is the area, the yellow area, controlled by Israel. And I'm like, wait, hang on a second. Wait, who's in control here? Who's in charge? How is this going to lead? What happened here? How is this going to lead us to a place when we have some semblance of the ability to get along? How is that possible? How is this going to make it? And then we have the settlements, because all throughout these areas are just more and more Jewish people, radical Jewish people, I should add, moving into these settlements. And you may disagree with what they do, right? You may disagree with their ideas. You may disagree with the idea that they should be allowed to move in there. But Palestinians disagree with a lot of things. Very few Palestinians support Hamas. You know what I mean? Really, when it comes down to it, it's like they don't support that, but yet we claim that they all do. And so I think, my God, this is filled with Jewish people that just come and take the land. Now, here's the thing, right?
Settlers.
Yes, settlers. So here, go to the next slide. So here's a settlement, right? Here's land that was dedicated to Palestine, to Palestinians, you know, like his people, his relatives, you know, Yusuf's relatives. But the Israeli government just makes it so that these Jewish settlers go in and they work the laws out and they make it happen, and here they go. Like that, this is really deeply disturbing, man. Really disturbing, because how is this going to contribute to peace in some kind of way? And who's standing up to these settlers? Like, you know, what's happening? Okay, go to the next slide. And then here's the thing that I just want to tell you. I read a lot of stories about the experience of Palestinians, and man, the stories are heartbreaking. And I read them, and there are good stories, and there are people like this woman here who goes and she collects the stories of these Palestinians to say, like, what are you, tell me what happened to you, and how are you, and what's going on? And the stories are heart-wrenching. And some, I'm like inclined to say, like, okay, maybe that's stretching the truth a little bit, but I read enough, and I'm aware enough to know that, like, yeah, there's just some really just sad things that are going on for Palestinian people. And if we go to the next slide, I have a few. Here's this woman, like, who's got the power here, man? Who's got the power? Like, this is like, now you could say, like, yeah, well, she might have a bomb in her bag, or she might have this, but who has the power? And after a while, when the power is unequal in this kind of way, it's just, it's heart-wrenching, and it's problematic, and it's going to call for a response. People are going to respond. Next slide. Here's a guy who just had his olive trees taken down by the Israeli government because they decided that he planted them on land, even though he planted them 40 years ago. They decided, well, it was planted on land illegally, and so they control the power. Israel controls power, and so it's like, you can't do that. Like, come on, man, you're not playing along here. You're making it impossible. Next slide. Couple more here. It's just a house being taken down. The same thing. It's just who's got the power. Okay, so that's the flip side of this. Who's holding that?
Can we pause a minute?
One more.
Wait.
Just one more.
Okay.
These are just these settlers who, Palestinian Authority, Palestinian police, they can't arrest these guys. These guys can commit crimes against Palestinians, and the Palestinian authorities, they don't have the ability to arrest them. They can call the Israelis and say, like, hey, they committed a crime against us. But it's like, that's not fair. It's not even not fair. It's just entirely just deeply troubling. Okay? So,
Dr. Why don't you first say, what are you...
Is that my full narrative?
No. What's that?
Is that like your full argument for my side?
And that's not the full one.
Not
it's
full
just
one?
the very first part.
Okay, first part.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. If I'm sitting here next to you, and I just heard what I just said, in my mind, I'm going to be having all these responses to it, right? And the truth is, and I can have a response to each thing or whatever, but the totality of it is like, God, yeah, okay. Just to hear that. And if I'm sitting here listening to what I said about, if I'm Jewish, I'm afraid, man. And I think about some of these things. I think about some of what I just identified here. And I'm like, hey, man, if I'm Jewish, I'm going to do a lot of things. I'm going to do a lot of things that I wouldn't normally do, but I'm going to do them because I'm afraid. And I'm really afraid. And so there are a lot of things that if I'm here listening to that argument, it's going to be hard for me because I'm going to say, like, what are you afraid of? Or what are you this? But
Okay.
I'm
going to pause you. So what you just laid out, one dimension of many dimensions of some of the things that are between people who are Jewish and Palestinian, or Israeli and Palestinian. Okay, so I think we can all feel the intensity of that. I mean, I can feel it in you both. Can you say what's the hardest thing? Just, we're not directly responding to that stuff, but you created kind of what we're all in. I'm gonna ask you the same question. What's the hardest thing for you about walking through the world as a Palestinian American?
I think the hardest part about it is the failure to acknowledge the genocide that's happening. You just painted this narrative of an attack where 1,200 people were murdered, and on my flip side, you compared it to homes being taken and like the government having a much more control over the peoples than our own government. So I don't think it was very fair that you didn't...
Wait, hang on. Just you walking through the world as a Palestinian American, just not in relation directly to these details, but just what's it like so that we can understand, like, what are the things you think about? What are the things you encounter? What are the things that are not understood?
I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, very conservative area. My name was Yusuf. It's very different from everyone else's because I was in a graduating class of 120. I grew up being called a terrorist. I was always called a terrorist. It was like I was the Muslim friend, so whether it was a joke or whether they meant it, like they saw me as a terrorist. They saw me as a threat. They saw my family as a threat. And ever since like 9/11, like I was raised in that high school where like people were like scared of my name and my brother's name and my dad's name and my mom and my grandma's and my little sisters. They're still bullied to this day. My sister's a senior. And she gets made fun of sometimes, especially with the Palestine thing. Whenever October 7th happened, she had multiple people texting her saying like, "You're a terrorist." And like that narrative happens on the other side as well.
But that's a thing that you live with and have lived with, and
every day, yeah, since before October 7th. It's what I grew up with, being called a terrorist.
By the way, I just want to say something. I didn't pick two different topics to talk about as a comparison. I just picked two different topics as a way to just go into it. Okay?
Yeah, I just didn't appreciate that you compared like a murder of 1,200 people to displacement.
But I wasn't comparing. I was doing two different topics. Okay.
Can you say what's the hardest part about what it's like to be Jewish, walking through the world?
Well, I mean, the short answer would be anti-Semitism, but I can definitely go more in depth.
Yeah, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I think the saying that you mentioned when you were talking, "never again is now," is very true. October 7th was the biggest killing of Jews since the Holocaust, and like ever since then specifically, anti-Semitism has been on the rise, and I think I definitely like see that even in my own life.
What about as you were growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in North Carolina. There are not many Jewish people. In my public high school, I was one of 10 Jewish people. These kids I've known almost my entire life because those were the only other Jewish people there were. I definitely say people looked at me differently because I was Jewish in a community that the majority was not. I think it was harder to make friends because people had opinions about Jewish people that may or may not be true.
What do you find as like the most undermining opinion? I mean, you talked about being considered a terrorist and people being afraid of you. What's most undermining for you as a Jewish person as you were walking through that time of your life?
I think it's just scary. Like, you never know who in this room or really anywhere I've grown up could be anti-Semitic. So I think in high school, anywhere in North Carolina, even here, you have to be very cautious about where you can express your Judaism and in what way. Like on campus, I'm very involved in the Jewish organizations, and it's hard to say where you can fully express that. So I think just growing up overall, I was scared to fully express being Jewish in ways I wanted to. And growing up in a predominantly not Jewish area, I really spent time inserting myself in Jewish communities in any way I could because it's a very big part of my identity. But it's hard to do.
And being Palestinian is a big part of your identity also.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what she said about growing up Jewish. Basically, you said the same thing. I mean, you're in the...
Yeah, I grew up Muslim. I was one of 2 families, I think, in my high school that were Middle Eastern. He's my best friend. He also goes to Penn State. He's at hockey. But other than him, there's really no one else that speaks another language at my school.
And so you walk through also the world, like when you're in a space you don't know what people are thinking or what people...
I mean, this is America. This is a country built on immigrants. I mean, no matter, like, if you go to the city, you see all different kinds of peoples.
Yeah.
I grew up in a smaller white town, but I never felt like... I did feel like I was excluded, but it never got to me because I just knew that they were closed-minded people, and it wasn't, like, I wasn't for them, and that's fine.
Hey, by the way, well, hang on, do you?
I just wanted to ask another question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I guess so I wanted to just turn back a little bit to not exact details of what Sam was putting in terms of like the intensity of the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis, but what do you already, what do I want to say? I'm going to start with you this time. What do you already agree with, if you will, about something of the Palestinian perspective or the case for Palestinian rights or however you would describe it? Like, what do you already kind of feel like, yeah, I agree?
You could stick with just of the things that I said.
Maybe, if that's...
It might be
could
easier.
Whatever's easier for you.
Yeah.
So of Sam's argument, or
Pardon?
what he said,
Sorry?
base it off of what Sam was saying about his side.
If that's easy for you, or if there's something other than that you've already heard that you're like, yeah, I would agree with that. Of course, I accept that. What would you say would be one thing?
I mean, that's a hard question because like the topic of this is like empathy is hard. So I think it is
Don't worry
hard.
about empathy.
But from what you said, I can sympathize with that. Palestinian people do deserve their own land as well. And that they deserve rights as well.
That's...
And I understand, like you were talking about why Jewish people are scared. I can understand like the somewhat same fear on his side, and like what he said about his high school and all that. I mean, I can see a similarity about how we both felt isolated in different ways, even though we're from entirely different communities.
Mm-hmm.
I think like there are more similarities in the isolation than we may realize.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you just say what you heard Jessica say, and then I'm going to ask you the same question? What does she already
Yeah, that she
agree
feels for the displacement, she feels for the lacking of rights and the treatment of the Palestinian people, and here in America, the isolation.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, by the way, it's nice if you can talk to each other, but I know if I'm asking a question, it's weird to not look at me. So
Wait,
we're going to just try.
Say that again, but say it to her.
That
Just what you heard.
Yeah, I heard that you understand that you feel for the fact that Palestinians don't have the rights that they should have in their land, that they have a right to their own land, and that you feel isolated here in America due to the fear of the attacks.
Cool. So can you answer, the question was, what do you already agree with, if you will, about the Israeli or the Jewish side?
I totally agree with the attack on October 7th. I condemn it. It's a horrible attack. I condemn the action of it. It was a mass murder. It was horrible. And I do agree with that. I also feel for the anti-Semitism towards the Jewish people as well. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you speak directly to her also again. Yeah, so you feel that. Uh-huh.
Can you just kind of say this is the listening part. What did you just hear?
Say what I heard. That you don't necessarily agree that what was done on October 7th was the right way to go about things.
No, I don't agree.
agree.
I do not agree. I condemn the action of the killing of the 1,200
that you
people.
don't support what happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay.
important. But
No, just keep going, and we'll say why we paused you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's anything else you heard.
And that, like, you understand that dealing with anti-Semitism is difficult as a Jewish person.
Mm.
So the reason we paused you there, I don't know what he's thinking exactly, but I have a feeling that we're thinking a similar thing, which is the word I condemn that event versus I don't support it is like, seems like a really big difference. How do you hear that if you're just kind of focusing on that?
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there is a difference. I think like it's just putting it in my perspective. I mean,
Say more.
maybe more so like what I hope to hear, I guess, is a big thing.
Your own what?
What I hope to hear.
What you hope to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for me in this particular case, right, like you would, what you want to hear is, like,
Wait, can I just ask a quick question? Are you saying you wanted to hear that, or you hope to hear something else? It's really important, actually.
No, like I appreciate what he said. Like, truly, like I've never, I mean, not that I talk to many Palestinian people, but I've never heard somebody say that. But like, in my ideal world, I would hope that a Palestinian person did not support what happened to Jews on October 7th.
Uh-huh. Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
I have a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot.
No, wait,
now.
I'm going to say something to everybody before you
Okay.
keep going, and thank you, both of you. This is one of those really important moments because it's the difference between understanding something and not understanding something, which also is the difference between war and peace, ultimately, way down the line. And so I really appreciate what you're saying, something about the difference between what you're hearing and what you're expecting. And when I hear Youssef, I'm hearing like a really clear statement of condemnation. And so it's really important to know, like, to what degree are you hearing that, or are you hearing something else, or fill in the blank?
I mean, I think in any situation, and probably from both perspectives, it's hard to hear something here. And obviously, if we thought the same thing, we'd be on the same side. So it's expected to hear something that you don't want to hear.
Yeah, but in this case, you are on the same side of that. It was an attack on October 7th, 2023, and you both condemn it, and that's a pretty big thing, actually.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
And so when I go back to that, when I go back to that one slide that I had up where I showed the protesters, and I'm like, look, man, when I see those right there, when I see that by me, I think, wait, you guys, do you realize that by walking down the street after the killing, 1,200 people, hostage, the whole thing, right, massacre, do you realize that by having that sign up, indirectly, like what I'm reading in that, like how can I not read that? Is like, wait, are you supporting Hamas? Are you saying like we need more of that? Like how could I not see that? Hang on one second, I'm gonna have you respond. Like, and you were shaking your head like, yeah, that's how you see it. Like,
Can you provide the nuance?
so you provide the nuance because you don't see that. I can also, by the way, not see that.
Yeah.
I can, because I know who those people are, and I know that there's nobody. They're not saying like
There's no Hamas sign up there.
there's no sign that's saying like, hey, we should go slaughter more Jews.
Actually, it says ceasefire. It says to stop
Ceasefire.
slaughtering.
Yeah, but that's one. But you got other people in the front carrying that other sign, and that's a message. Do you see how like for her, that would be like, oh shit, man, by any means necessary.
Can you say, when you're looking at that image, this is really important, what are you seeing and how are you processing it? You already started saying, I see ceasefire, so that's like, that stands out to you, right? That's not standing out to Jessica. But what else do you see?
I see people standing up for what's right. I see people who are fighting for a country that's been occupied for the last 70 years and have been under a genocide for the last two. I see.
Okay.
I would understand why after the first couple months, maybe almost year, like why she would feel this fear. But after the last 2 years now, with the more and more information of how Israel killed its own citizens on October 7th, there's a video of it. The IDF
Hang
said
on,
it.
don't go there.
wait.
Yeah, just don't go there. But because that's too. Just stick with like right here.
Yeah, I mean, because you're in a good.
You're in a roll. Yeah.
Okay. With more and more information being released through since October 7th, there should be no reason to see why you wouldn't see this as a pro-Hamas but a pro-Palestine thing. Hamas is not affiliated by this at all.
So
Hamas,
when you look at that, you can make the distinction very soberly that this isn't anti-Jewish, but it's more about supporting people who've been oppressed for 70 years, right?
Okay.
That's what you see. But when you see it, you see what's standing. What are you seeing?
I'm scared to misspeak.
Just
say it.
wait, hang on. Just give yourself a moment if you're afraid to say. Just like, and maybe I could say it in a way that will help you, or maybe not. But just like when you see it, what are you processing? What's hitting you?
Well, I've said this before, but like that picture terrifies me. I do see the ceasefire sign, but that's not what would stand out to me by looking at that immediately. Hamas comes to my head immediately when I see that, even if there's not a sign. I see anti-Semitism. I see trying to take our country away.
Wait, can I just ask a question?
Wait, I want to ask her a question.
I want to ask you,
Okay,
Seth.
go ahead. Yeah.
What do you hear? Because it's interesting, right? You're saying like I see, supporting people who are oppressed. So what do you hear? What is the difference of what Jessica sees that you're not seeing?
I think she sees the attack that happened in the Middle East as an attack to her and all of her people across America, which is it's not what it is. It's an attack against the ideology of Zionism and the colonialism that's happening in the West Bank and the taking over of the country.
So you're seeing it in a way, narrow way, a very specific strategic attack.
Well, that's what it is. It's a very specific.
What it is what it is. It's just, but that's what you're seeing. That's the biggest truth here, is that's how you see it, right?
Yeah, it's not what it is.
Wait, hang on real quick. Sorry.
All right,
I'm sorry. But just, like, it's really, that's what you see, right? You're not speaking for someone else. You're saying, I see it as like, this is not about Jews everywhere. This is about what's happening in Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Not of course for you, because you see it very differently, right?
Very differently.
Uh-huh.
And so here's the thing. I can see it both ways. Like I can look at this sign. I know these students, they're like students out here. The vast majority of people that you see here don't have the slightest idea of what this conflict is about. A movement.
Can you say that a little bit differently?
The vast majority of people sitting in this room really don't understand this conflict very well, but they're young people, and so they want to get involved, and there's a movement, and this movement happens for rights, and we haven't had a civil rights movement for very long. It's like, oh my God, we're going to go support Palestinian rights, and so they go out and they stand behind a sign, and they don't really even know what the sign is, and they don't really understand even that term by any means necessary, where it comes from, and like, yeah, okay, you all are there. They're not thinking about the getting rid of all Jewish people and the history of anti-Semitism. And I can be here and go like, wait, hang on a second, man. The Holocaust, everything after the Holocaust, and it hasn't gone away. It's the longest hatred. It's 2,000 years of hating Jews. And I don't know why people hate Jews, except it largely comes down to Christianity, but that's another story. And like, I'm just, how could you do that?
So I want to hear from Yusef, because he's like desperate to say something, and then I want to say something. But what are you like feeling right now? And then I want to hear what you're feeling. Just feeling. If you could just name feeling.
Frustration.
Frustration. And what else?
Sadness.
What else? Or if there's
And pity.
Pity?
Pity.
Okay. Any other feelings?
No, those are just sadness, frustration, and pity.
Wow. Sadness, frustration, pity. What about you?
I think like I do feel a little bit like a mutual understanding. Like it's nice to hear like both perspectives and kind of see how like we've
What's the feeling?
Oh, okay.
I know, I know. Just feeling.
The feeling,
Or feelings.
like it makes me very emotional.
Which are, what kind of emotions?
I'd say it's also upsetting,
Upsetting.
frightening, also frustration. We kind of have the same feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It gets really, here, I just want to add,
Wait, I don't want you to add an argument, because what I want to actually say in this moment, because this is actually, I'm going to use that word iconic again, but this is a typical moment of any kind of conflict that we have. Again, not to minimize the extent and the fear and the grief and the brokenness that comes from this particular war and oppression. But this is the place that is so common, where we feel and we see things that are telling us that we're just completely on opposite ends of a spectrum, and that we can never find our way anywhere other than these two places, especially because there are morally righteous reasons to be standing here and morally righteous reasons to be standing here, and to stand anywhere else is to abandon something really important. And when I say that this could be about anything, and yet you both said things that, like you just said, sound so similar. Where's that take you when you think of having such similar feelings, regardless of how different your stances or experiences are? What's that? What is it? How does that land in you, or what does it mean to you?
It's confusing because to really take a step back and look at the full picture, you would take in both sides. And I feel like morally, both sides, you don't have to be a mathematician to take in numbers. You would see the lives lost on both sides, and you would see that there is a very large skew to one side. That one side has military grade tech given to them by America, and the other side has RPGs and AKs. And you see that the attack is very one-sided. It's very lopsided.
there's another side here, though. There's another thing. The idea of, wait, do you want to ask Jessica? Because I want to go to the thing about getting smarter. We really need to pull that around. Okay.
Yeah, what do you, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just, when you hear the similarities, where does it take you? You said confused.
I think that I have more sympathy when I hear like what his people have gone through and kind of relate it to what my people have gone through. Because, I mean, putting myself in like a Jewish bubble in my life, I don't hear like the suffering of Palestinian people as much as I could. So I think it makes me sympathize more.
Mm. So like the stories that I was telling about, like on the West Bank, and you don't hear those stories.
Not very often.
Yeah.
I mean, I was aware of the majority of the stuff that you said, but I think just like hearing it really makes me like think about how both of our people in our communities have struggled, and like understand more so why it's frustrating on both sides.
So,
This is going to support what you're,
yep,
I think, where you're going.
yep.
But what I learn over and over and over and over and over again in every conflict, again, whether it's international, interpersonal, marital, is that everything's true. Everything's true. And realize that with some nuance, right? Like you could say some stupid BS. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're really in the truth of conflict between people, nations, groups, whatever it is. what he's saying is absolutely true. What she or representing is true. What you're representing is true. And the human brain, you know, the thing that likes to break everything into dualities, can actually get to the place where it can manage paradox, where, and if it's all true, then what do we do?
So here's
Because
the
we
thought.
actually have a lot of things we can do if what you're saying is true and what you're feeling is true and what you're feeling is true, as opposed to trying to figure out which one is true.
So the idea that Lori and I have is like, I don't want you to give we don't want you to give your thoughts up. We don't want you to change your thinking, you know, to give it up and be like, oh my God, I have to accept everything that Yusuf said. And we don't want you to give up what you're thinking and everything that you see and think like Jessica. The idea is that if you really see his position or really see the things that he sees, you're like twice as smart. And you're just so much smarter because you can make better, more nuanced, have better and more nuanced and more thorough thoughts about this particular topic. And the more clearly you see, like really see, see in the way that I see, man. They really see what she sees, what Jessica sees, the insight she has. The more you just become that much smarter. You don't have to give up anything. You don't have to give up your history. You don't have to give up your pride. Nothing. You just are gonna be smarter, and that means you're gonna understand yourself more. And so I think for me, man, I can sit here and I can make. You just become smarter.
Well, I can take it another step further, which actually, so to build on what you're saying, Sam.
But I want to hear from them, though. I want to make sure we have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn. You guys okay?
Great.
Okay.
What do you think about what I just said about being smarter? Like really? Because people have this idea that empathy, if you empathize with Jessica, you have to think like her. And if you empathize with Yusuf, you have to think like Yusuf. And you have to become Yusuf. You have to become her. You have to give up your thoughts.
I think about what you just said is, so far, correct me if I'm wrong, I have agreed with what you guys have said. I've condemned the attacks on October 7th. Mm-hmm. I have said I feel for
absolutely.
the anti-Semitism that happened in America after
Absolutely.
those. And I am really frustrated because I've yet to hear her that she condemns the genocide that's happening. She has she's failed to acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. But why don't you just actually ask her? Because also, you guys are not having the time to have a real conversation because we're interrupting. So maybe you could just ask her an open-ended question.
Do you believe a genocide is happening?
Wait, that's closed.
It's closed.
It's like
what
you start with what or how, right? So it's kind of like.
What do you think is happening in Gaza right now?
Can you say that question again? What do you think is happening?
What do you think is happening in Gaza right now? Gaza.
I'm aware that people are suffering and that, like he showed, like people's homes are being taken. I don't think that's right. So to answer your question, suffering, killing people who...
The surprise of that, just like you were surprised when Yusuf said, I condemn October 7th, like you both had this like, oh wait, really? That's actually deeply meaningful, right?
Yeah, I don't support genocide, and I hope that he wouldn't either on his side. But
Of course, it's by people being slain.
Yeah, but you...
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, but you got to understand. Here, can you move your chairs a little closer?
Yeah.
You guys, can you move a little closer? You guys got like
wait,
that
hang on. There's something's happening, so I don't know what are we missing something or it feels like there's a response that we should know about.
We're good?
Is there?
Okay. Here, the reason I said pull closer because that's like it's just a huge statement. And I think that sometimes when we make connections with other people and we see the ways in which we agree on certain things, disagree on other things, we don't acknowledge it. And like for Jessica, hang on, man. I just want to sit right here. I studied genocide. I use the word genocide very, very carefully. I use it sociologically. I'm very reluctant to use the word genocide in a lot of situations where other people throw it around. Okay? You understand that?
Yeah, I could tell you haven't used it once yet.
Yeah, and you understand that here you just made this really deep, the two of you made this really intense connection.
Well, can I ask the same question back to him?
Yeah.
So what do you think is happening in Israel right now and since October 7th?
I think what's happening in Israel is in Israel, the Palestinians attacking is an act of self-defense towards them getting their lands taken away.
Are you talking about in Israel?
I mean, what's happening in Israel?
No, you asked about Palestine,
Yeah,
so
I'm
she was
asking you
asking the same question.
back.
What do you think is happening in Israel? Just right. I mean, it's your same question, just flipped.
I think Israel's under attack. I believe that they are being attacked, but I think that the attacks are targeted, unlike the attacks on Palestine. I think that's even regardless of our military technologies, we're still able to adequately target military personnel, people who are in the IDF that serve in the military, who know what they're signing up for, not people in humanitarian aid camps trying to get food to feed their families.
Okay. But under attack. Also, the one thing to keep in mind is Hamas and other members, Palestinians, have said the attacks against Israel are never going to stop, man. We will never, ever, ever stop until the end of Israel happens.
Do you believe Israel's under a genocide?
No, not. She didn't. You didn't
Is
say
that what you did? You just say that? I just want that to be very clear. You said a genocide. What is a genocide?
No, wait, hang on. There's a confusion here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
No, she was building on what Sam said,
Yeah.
that it
What
would
I'm
be a
saying.
genocide
Okay.
if Hamas's idea of like.
I think Israel's under attack and they have every right to defend their land and their people.
Well, I would defend my land, man. If I had a group of people that was coming after me that was like said we're
100%.
never going to
Wait.
stop until it's over.
It's exactly how the Palestinians feel.
No, exactly. Exactly. That's where
Wait,
the
you just
two of
picked up my
you-
narrative.
I want to make a bigger point here.
Yeah.
A bigger point is this. This is really important.
And
Okay,
then
wait.
we're-
No, seriously.
Yep.
So there are many things going on in the conflict in the war. And what is happening between the state and the territory of Israel and Palestine is geopolitical. And there's also a whole world of things that as a result happens between people. And those two things, by the way, y'all, this is so important. Those two things are not the same. So what is possible between people like Youssef and Jessica is so much more optimistic than what is possible in the geopolitical world. Because what the two of you, the things that you actually agree on is way more, has way more potential than waiting for the geopolitical situations to change, because they have so many things, they have to do with so many other things besides Palestinian and Jewish people. And what you all find in common, you are not, Israelis and Palestinians, like that conflict is asymmetrical. This is what you are referring to, Youssef. It's asymmetrical. There's one group that has more power than another group. That is a different part of the conversation than what we were having here, which is really important to the future of the world, that we make this distinction between the geopolitical and the interpersonal and intercultural. And you all took some really serious steps in seeing something between yourselves that you didn't see before. That's profound and not understood to be profound enough.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for talking on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.